Do you recognize the cheerleader? Do you guys happen to remember her name? Kelly Smart. Yeah. So what's the situation that's going on in this picture, everybody? So what kind of situation was Kelly Smart going through altogether? She was a cheerleader at this high school team, and other people, yeah, they were jealous and they thought it was unfair. Why did they think it was unfair? Yeah, let's say that in English. Yeah, because they thought that the purpose of cheerleading, the very nature of cheerleading is celebrating uh, the healthy body, I mean like able and athletic body, and then showing that in front of other people so that people can be, pumped up and then motivated by the celebration of health, I guess. But then Kelly Smart and probably her parents and the court decision, the judge who ruled the court decision probably thought that the nature of cheerleading not does not lie in the fact that the cheerleaders have to be healthy, but the fact that cheerleader, whether disabled or abled, as long as she, motivates the school spirit and unites them, she serves the purpose of cheerleading, right? So when we were discussing Aristotle, and then Aristotle was very much interested in teleological debates. What is teleological, everybody? What does telos mean? End or purpose. Yeah. So when we want to make a judgment on a controversy, we have to think about the purpose of this action. If we think about the purpose of this action, for example, purpose of golf and purpose of cheerleading, then it helps us decide on whether it's right or wrong. And in the modern day, many of us would like to think that politics are detached from morality and politics have to stay neutral. But uh, for every kind of controversy to make a judgment, to really justify our argument, thinking about the telos and thinking about the purpose is necessary. So Michael Ciano seems to suggest that for controversies and for judgments, uh, our value system and our values and moral judgment cannot be detached. Yeah. Okay, cannot be removed. All right. So let's move on to our first discussion question. Should politics be neutral or should it aim to cultivate virtue, as Aristotle claimed? Yeah. Well, people, maybe like some of us or the majority of us think that in the modern day politics has to be neutral, and then it shouldn't try to teach us a moral lesson, because in the past the church and then the state were not separated. So church would try to impose their value systems on the public and ordinary people, and then if they didn't follow the religious principles, then they would be executed and then persecuted. So people have this qualms about letting politics being involved in moral judgment, and then defining what good is, defining what moral action is. Well, we have to be very careful about that, using the purpose and then using politics to oppress the minority. We shouldn't go into that extreme realm, but Aristotle and Michael Sandel seem to suggest that politics is it's impossible to detach from moral judgment. That's what he seems to be suggesting, right? Because according to Aristotle, the purpose of politics is not to just promote the economic welfare and then just like protect the country in terms of defense. But for Aristotle, the purpose of the politics is for for it to help the citizens, flourish as human beings and develop their human character. Yeah. So I'm gonna take this as an example why politics cannot be detached and removed from value judgment and morality judgment. Like, a politician or anybody who thinks about controversial issue has to involve at least part of her moral judgment to decide which option you're gonna choose. So let's say there is a politician, and then on the left side there are employers and then owners of businesses, and they're lobbying and then they're giving pressure to this congressman to reduce the minimum wage. And they say that, oh, it's for, and their value system, they suggest that the priority goes to respecting private ownership, like private property, and then letting the market economy to operate without as little interference as possible. That's their value. That's also value, right? And then what about people on the right? These are the workers and laborers, and they're demanding higher minimum wages, higher minimum wages. And then the people who are supporting their arguments, people who are siding with them, they would probably argue for human dignity and human rights, and then like basic levels of living. Yeah. Then what if the politician, he covers his eyes with a mask like the goddess of justice, and then, oh, I'm not gonna make a value judgment. I'm just gonna, you know, stay completely neutral. It's impossible. It's like everybody, when a person makes a decision, uh, like some part of his value system, some part of his personal beliefs, whether he prioritizes the market values or the human rights or whatever that is, value judgment has to be involved. That's why Aristotle seems to be suggesting. Yeah. Okay. So Aristotle thinks that politics is not neutral. Yeah. And then he thinks that when politics carefully discusses what kind of life is a good life and what kind of life is worth pursuing, then actually that helps the citizens to cultivate their virtue. Yeah. And then is political participation essential to a moral life? Yeah. So many of us in the modern day, we try to stay away from politics because politics, they have a very bad reputation in whichever country, because politicians, they have this enormous power. So many of them are corrupt. So one could argue that it's totally possible to lead a moral life without being involved in politics. But Aristotle seems to think differently. So he thinks that to live a moral life, engaging politically, that is essential. Yeah, because he saw human beings, we are born to live in polis. Polis is the community, and then we are born with this unique ability. What is the ability that differentiates humans from other animals, according to Aristotle, everybody? Language, right? The reason why we are uh, endowed this like unique ability of language is for us to discuss uh, with other people, with other members of the community, what is right and wrong. Yeah, that is the first ground that Aristotle believes that we humans, we are born to be political beings, deciding what is right or wrong, and then engaging in the debates and carefully determining what's right or wrong. Yeah. Also, the reason, so some people could say that, yeah, okay, I guess. So why can't just like an individual stay in his house and read about virtue and like politics and morality, and then just like lead a personally, perfectly, spotless moral life, but not involved in politics because that's too risky and dangerous. And then you are afraid that you might be wrong by participating, you're presenting yourself in front of other people, and then you are pronouncing your argument or your view, you're making that public in front of other people. You might get contradicted later. You might turn out to be wrong. You don't want to get into the risk of being wrong and feel embarrassed about it. So it's safe to stay inside your private area. Yeah, man. Coughing like a crazy person. Oh yeah, I have my water. Oh, thank you very much. I'm gonna get some water. Yeah, so some people uh could think so, but Aristotle has an opposition to that. He thinks that if you don't practice virtue in real life, you cannot be a virtuous person. Just by thinking about virtue, you cannot be a virtuous person. For him, being a happy person is being a virtuous person, being a good person. Like virtuous in an easier term, that's good. Like a moral, good, virtuous person. Yeah. So can you become better at playing the piano just by thinking about playing the piano? No. Can you become better at cooking just by imagining that you're cooking? It's impossible. So Aristotle believes that only by participating in politics, one can practice one's virtue. Yeah, and then by being virtuous, he's becoming responsible citizens and he's developing his character. Yeah, okay, that's what he thought. And then I really like this quote. It's at the very bottom of this slide here. And then he said that, Aristotle said that to live morally, we must also live publicly. So like we don't want to like make a scene in front of other people. We don't want to make ourselves known in public, right? Because that we are scared. We're frightened. Oh, what if my opinion turns out to be wrong? And then what if I get attacked? We're afraid about that. We're afraid of being wrong. We're afraid of being wrong. So many of us, we choose to stay neutral. Not because we are truly neutral, because we are afraid. Yeah. And then, but there are some people who choose to live publicly. We must also live publicly, sharing the burdens and hopes of our fellow citizens and bear the responsibility for the fate of our community. So, if you think about the fate of this community, there are many ills that are threatening this country, like low birth rate and then climate crisis and so on. And to lead a moral life, we have to have the courage to bear the communal responsibility of bearing the fate of this community together. Once you evade that, moral responsibility, then you cannot be called a truly virtuous person or a true citizen. That's what Aristotle seems to suggest. Yeah. And what is true happiness? So it says in the treatise eudaimonia, eudaimonia is the state of flourishing, state of happiness. That is a term devised by Aristotle. And being happy for Aristotle is not the state of emotion or feeling. Actually, happiness is eudaimonia. And then happiness for Aristotle involves actions. Yeah. If you continuously engage in virtuous behaviors and actions in everyday life, and then if you practice that consistently, then that is the form of happiness that he is suggesting. Yeah. So uh, the virtuous person, according to Aristotle, he's gonna draw upon the noble joys, like books, um, or discussing about the fate of our community with your fellow citizens, and from the conversations and from the discourses that are contained in the book, uh, he is going to process the knowledge through himself, but he is not going to just stop at that. But he's going to have these fruits. He's going to do the service for community. He's going to watch the authority, whether it stays transparent or not. He's going to participate. He's going to vote. By engaging in those actions, he is, living a moral life by continuously practicing virtue. So eudaimonia, it's not a static. It's not a static state of emotion, but it's an active, state of practicing and then like, living that life. So only this kind of virtuous people, they're flourishing as trees. They're firmly rooted into the ground. And then by showing these examples of good actions and virtues, they're becoming the moral pillars. And then they're becoming the examples that other people can look up to and then try to copy. Yeah. So that was the, that is the definition of true happiness for Aristotle. And then I think, in today's world, there are many things that give us instant pleasure. So people fall for that. It's very regrettable that drugs are spreading in the Western world and also in Korea. And then like gambling, those like instant gratifications or the pleasures that we can take out of eating or those fulfill our instinct desires. They're half of us. Half of us are animals, right? But there's only so much you can take out of the joy. If you get used to that, you're going to want more and more and more. And then at the end of the day, you're going to feel empty. Yeah. And then you're going to crave for more. You're going to be in the constant state of craving for more and more and dissatisfaction. So the true joy comes from, discerning the higher joys and lower joys and then taking joy out of these activities and practicing them in your real lives. Okay. Oh yeah. All right. So everybody, let's summarize your ideas for 1 minute. Yeah. But this is a practice round, so everybody practice loudly. Okay. Neutrality of politics, and then political participation, true happiness. Ready, set, start. Well, Aristotle, he was an ancient Greek philosopher who existed more than 2,000 years ago. So I thought that his ideas would be very old-fashioned and wouldn't be relevant to the modern time. But I was really surprised how his ideas are timeless and they're so applicable to the modern world. So one of the ideas that I really liked about Aristotle is that political participation is essential to our morality. Well, nowadays it has become part of our etiquette, part of our, you know, cultural habit, whether in the Eastern world or in the Western world, to stay away from political discussions. I don't think it's right to discuss that matter with strangers, but with our, it would be really wonderful if we could have a small group of people, our colleagues, who can talk about the future of this community. Okay? All right. So we're gonna move on to. We haven't decided on the. We haven't decided on the order of discussion. Okay. So I'm just gonna, voluntarily discuss. Voluntarily write down. Okay. Oh, who wants to go first? Who wants to go second? Who wants to go third? Oh, rock, scissors, paper. 가위바위보. 보. 보. Okay. 선인이. Who wants to go fourth? Oh, Chimini, raise your hand first. Who wants to go last? Oh, rock, scissors, paper. 가위바위보. 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 아, 지안. 오케이, 민서의 주경. 가위바위보. 주경이. And 민서. Yeah, since we weren't aware of this order, we're just gonna do the all together, practice just one more time, okay? All together, loudly. Ready, set, start. Well, and also this idea of true happiness resonated deeply with me. So we think that happiness comes from satisfying our desires immediately and instantly. But those types of satisfaction and pleasures, they're not long lasting because once we get used to the amount of happiness, we would need more stimulus. We would need more of the dose, right? Whether it be food or drugs or, any enjoyment that we get out of those, instinctual pleasures. But the happiness that Aristotle talked about was not just about the emotional state or feelings, but it was about one's lifestyle, one's way of living. Only when you're acting like constantly and be involved in that type of lifestyle, then you can be called a truly happy person. Okay, so we're gonna get started with 주경이. Okay, so 주경이 talk means a practice. Yeah, and other people, please finish up your novel discussion. 지연. Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. Ready, set, start.
I partly agree with Aristotle. Aristotle states that you can be a virtuous person if you participate in politic actions, since you can earn good characters and like good 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 things. And it is true that from those discussions you can broaden your point of view from other people's opinions. However, I don't think that just equals with happiness by being a virtuous person. Personally, I think happiness is a state when you are purely yourself and you're with the people that just acknowledge you as pure you and not considering others like
Others' pressure and expectations.
Yeah. And like comparing yourself with Instagram stars and just blaming yourself on who you are.
Oh, okay. By participating in political discourse, we can broaden our views and learn to think from other people's perspectives. That is wonderful. And then being happy is being yourself and listening to your inner voice, not being subject to the external expectation of other people's opinions or comparisons. Very good, 주경. Awesome. Let's move on to 민서. 민서 talk. Oh, 서진이 practice. Okay. Oh, could you like talk without looking at the script? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Ready, set, start. Could we like practice the like pronunciation? 아리스토틀이에요. 마지막이 약간 터틀. Could you repeat like after me twice? Aristotle. Aristotle. Okay. Yeah. Ready, set, start.
Aristotle's version of happiness is simple. Is to be happy, a virtuous person, and that's a bit different from utilitarianism because utilitarianism is about lesser the pain, the greater the happiness.
Yeah.
But I think if you avoid pain, there's no growth. So you should accept pain when needed and growing from it, and that's virtue. And you should, if you want to be virtuous, you should help others to be also virtuous. So that happiness needs to be contagious. And when you keep
pursue
pleasure, then sometimes there's emptiness when you only keep seeking for pleasure, and what that can
satisfy
that emptiness is virtue. So being a virtuous person is the ultimate
form of happiness. Oh, okay. So it was very good that you made a comparison between utilitarianism and Aristotle's idea, because utilitarianism did not differentiate the levels of joy or the grades of joy, whereas Aristotle did. Yeah, and then utilitarianists say that if you gain a lot of pleasure out of like cheeseburgers or YouTube, like that's also good because they didn't, discriminate against types of pleasure. And then like avoiding pain, whatever pain it is, that would be the best to maximize your pleasure. But Binza pointed out that sometimes if we embrace pain in our lives, that actually gives us an opportunity to, fight the pain and then become better. And then after overcoming the pain, we come to have deeper view, and then we come to have the empathy and compassion to the people who are suffering, because we have been there, right? Okay, very good, Binzo. All right, let's move on to 서진이. 서진이 talk and Jimin이 practice. Ready, set, start.
Although I partially agree with Arsenal's definition of happiness, I do not really agree fully.
Mm-hmm.
So, in my opinion, I don't think there is a like higher pleasures or lower pleasures. They're just like perceptions or how you take those things. So if you take pleasures from things that are considered not moral, then you would feel like not truly happy, or like you won't really get the real joy out of it. And although there are some kind of pleasures that are like really that brings emptiness, that things, but I personally think it's more of a perceptions or how you like treat the thing joys that you are getting. So I think the real definition of happiness is satisfying with the situation or like thinking positively. So it's more of how you perceive
Whether a person perceives a certain type of joy as high or low, that depends on the person's value system, and then it can be different depending on the individual. Yeah, and as long as that pleasure does not destroy yourself or hurt other people, then it's okay. All the joys, we don't have to differentiate and discriminate against the types of joys. Okay, very good, Sajin. All right, let's move on to Jiminy. Jiminy talk, Gianni practice. Ready, set, start.
Since human beings are language, we are meant to participate in politics where our capacity for language can be best realized. He argues that only by participating in politics and living in a polis, we can reach more people. I agree with Aristotle that only by participating in politics and deliberations or having responsibility for the community's common problem, we can be a virtuous people. But I think the process can be also made in homes or schools or other small scale places. Because in my opinion, serving powers within a family or deciding something together with other people can still be considered as politics, even though they are not like nation scale politics.
Oh yeah, the form of participation can be small scale, and it doesn't have to be loud and showy. You don't have to like exhibit that in front of a crowd. But then, if you could, talk about like what you think is right with your friend or with your family, that's also considered participation, right? Because what Aristotle warns us against is being silent, or like worse than being silent is just like not thinking about it at all, you know? I think some of us might remember or not. We learned about this 2 years ago, so you guys might not remember. So there was a concept of banality of evil developed by Hannah Arendt. And Hannah Arendt at the International Criminal Court, she was, looking at the war criminals, Nazi war criminals, and he said that I killed the Jews because Hitler ordered me. Hitler was my superior. What should I have done? I just like ordered my order. That was my job. And then like he failed to think, right? Like, so what Aristotle seems to be warning us against is failing to think at all and then just like being silent. But if we think and then if we voice our opinion, even on a small scale, even if we whisper that to our mom or on our private, like internet space, that also counts as participation. All right, good. Yes.
어이없다가
어이없다. Ridiculous? Yeah.
억울하다.
억울하다. Unfair. Okay. Yeah. Gianni talk and everybody complete the rest of your novel discussion. All right, because you need to before 10 o'clock. Okay. Ready, set, start.
I believe that politics should be neutral because I think that there shouldn't be any violation of freedom and human rights. Aristotle's view of politics has advantages such as preventing moral and social issues, but they encourage fundamental human rights. But except for the violation of the human rights, I like the idea of peace. I like the idea because his idea suggests that
Oh yeah, I totally agree with what you're saying because when politicians or when politics claim that they are agents of moral forces, or when they get the freedom to define what good is, they could use that the power and weapon to oppress the minority. For example, in terms of like abortion issue, right now in the U.S., the Republican Party is in power and Trump administration, and then based on the Christian principles, Christianity, they're suggesting they're even uh, ignoring a court case that was decided at the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court ruled that women have the right to choose whatever that's going on in their body. That was a Supreme Court decision. But then nowadays, Trump administration, it banned abortion. Yeah, so the women do not have choice over their body because, like, according to Christian principles, this is a good life. This is a moral life. Women, you got this like divine and sacred rules of bearers of children. You need to follow that moral duty. So if the politics got that role, starts, having that kind of role, it can go to the extreme. Yeah, I'm aware of the dangers of that. Okay, very good. So we're done with Gianni.